Chapter 114, Elder's Private Meeting with Han Yi, a visitor from Immortal Gate. They drink tea and discuss the Tao. Ning Yujing looked at Han Yi, whose back was to her, and as if guessing something, a subtle smirk lifted the corners of her lips. With a face full of seeming sincerity, she then asked, "Senior brother, what's wrong with my leg?" Han Yi turned back to her again, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Nothing. I was just checking your foundation. Now that I look, your legs seem fine. You must know that Pure Yang Peak is a place for body refinement. If one's physical constitution is weak, even with excellent spiritual roots, cultivation can be quite challenging. In the entire main peak, only Senior Sister Shen has successfully cultivated the body refining method to completion. So that's it." Ning Yujing's little mouth formed an O shape, as if she just comprehended something. It appears that making inappropriate moves won't work. Han Yi thought to himself. He had managed to find a flimsy excuse to circumnavigate his behavior. If he wanted to drive her away, he would have to take his time finding faults until she couldn't bear it any longer and left the cave mansion herself. That way, he could tell his senior sister that it was junior sister Ning who couldn't handle the hardship. It wasn't his fault for being unable to guide others. Take this key nurturing pill, and as for spells, take this introduction to basic spells to read. Han Yi pulled out some porcelain bottles from his storage ring and a book that he had borrowed, and handed them all to her. Ning Yujing accepted them and said seriously, "Thank you, senior brother, I will study hard. You start learning first, I have something to do. I'll come back later to teach you." Remembering that he needed to report to his senior sister, Han Yi temporarily excused himself. He traversed through a dense forest enveloped in spiritual fog to get to his senior sister's cave mansion. The cave mansion where his senior sister resided was a naturally formed one, completely different from his own. Riding on a sword, he came to the familiar entrance of the cave mansion and knocked directly on the door. This wasn't his first time there, so he knew the way well. "Junior brother Han, you're finally back." Shen Yuxiang opened the door, her face lit up with a joyous surprise. As always, she dressed casually at home, showing her natural face, with her hair loosely draped over her shoulders. Her transparent dress faintly showed her slender figure and long, toned legs, befitting of a disciple from the Pure Yang Peak. However, Han Yi was contemplating whether or not to share the information about the remnant members of the demon cult with Shen Yuxiang. He was hesitant, fearing that it might worry her, but the information would eventually need to be disclosed to the sect. "Junior brother, you have gone beyond the estimated time for your trip. Did something happen?" Shen Yuxiang inquired. It was known that Han Yi and Chu Shanyu, both elite members of the sect, had left together on a mission. Logically, they should have been able to accomplish the task of slaying a Golden Core Realm demon, Zhao. After all, they were once the top disciples of both the inner and outer sects. "We didn't encounter much on the way to slay the Jiaolong, but it felt like there were other forces behind this Jiaolong." "Other forces? Senior sister, have you heard of the Baitian demon cult?" Han Yi asked solemnly. "Of course. Are you suggesting that there are remnants of the demon cult secretly resisting the Great Zhou dynasty?" Shen Yuxiang's face immediately turned serious. "Not just that, they seem to be planning to oppose the Immortal Gate and desire a comeback. For such a serious matter, we must report this to the sect master and elders," Senior Sister Shen stated solemnly. Speaking of it, she slapped her forehead as she recalled something. Looking at Han Yi and saying, "Elder Jiang had specifically instructed me that as soon as you return, you must go to find him." "Find me? When waste his?" Hanya was confused. He had no idea why Elder Zhang would suddenly want to find him. His face had a slight change. Could it be due to the heavenly demon Nether Dragon scroll? "Just in the past few days. You should go now." Elder Zhang, as one of the senior elders and the master of the Heavenly Mystery Peak, is highly venerated and has a high status, second only to the sect master. Senior Sister Shen reminded him. "All right, I got it." At that moment, in the Arab of Dragon Sparrow sect, the spiritual key whirled in the opposite direction, with the rising sun covered by auspicious clouds. A group of formidable figures descended on Qingyun Immortal Mountain, causing alarming phenomenons to appear in the sky. This caused fear among many small sectarian cultivators. Even the inner sect's direct disciples were surprised, unable to guess the identity of these important figures who were paying them a visit. Yun Zuzi stood alone, unflinching amidst the chaos, with a welcoming smile on his face. He was just an old man with white hair, but he stood like a steadying needle at sea, as if even 100,000 lofty mountains couldn't cause ripples in him. "Oh, what brings you all to my Dragon Sparrow sect? The venerable elder here must be Yun Zuzi, the head of the Dragon Sparrow sect. It is indeed a pleasure to meet you." One of the visitors, a middle-aged man with frizzy hair, stepped forward. He was Zhou Ping, the head of the Sword Dao from Ziwei Heaven. However, none among them underestimated the seemingly innocuous elder before them. Yun Zuzi was older than any of them present, well over 1,000 years old and a genuine ancestral figure. He had reached the fusion stage a long time ago. Such figures were extremely rare in the whole cultivation world. A year ago, he had single-handedly cast the 9 King Zhuangguang seal to seal off an area, and the foreign deity body formed by his primordial spirit had impressed the demonic sect, causing the direct extinction of the ghoul sect. Deity transformation, void refinement, fusion, Mahayana. Being at the fusion stage meant that one was at the pinnacle of the pyramid, also representing the highest level of the immortal gate with slightly higher status than them. Although the Dragon Sparrow sect was not an immortal gate, it held several immortal legacies, with deity transformation elders and golden core disciples emerging in abundance. It was a sect not to be underestimated. There was no denying Yun Zuzi's seniority, but given that they represented the face of the immortal gate on this trip, they couldn't afford to show any weakness. Yi Johnson from Wuliang Tian took a step forward and calmly explained, "We spotted the aura of the demonic path, as well as the remnants of Sword Key. This Sword Key eventually led us to the vicinity of the Dragon Sparrow sect, hence we wished to conduct a search in the sect. We hope Elder Yun Zuzi would understand our situation." Inner sect disciple Han Yi presenting himself before Elder Zhang. After leaving his senior sister, Han Yi flew on his sword and finally arrived at Heavenly Mystery Peak, using magic power to transmit his voice. This was his first visit to the Heavenly Mystery Peak. He had heard that it was the only main peak without any disciples. However, it wasn't always like that, but had not taken in any disciples in a very long time. Some said that it was because Zhang Taixu held himself in high regard and believed that no one in the sect was qualified to be his disciple. Others said that his divination technique was too obscure and thus no one was willing to learn from him. As for why the Heavenly Mystery Peak did not have any disciples, different views abound amongst the newly initiated disciples. "Come in." A faint voice echoed from the void above. The array, appearing like a gold bowl placed upside down over the mountain peak, opened a small section to allow Han Yi to enter. Upon entering, Han Yi found the place deserted. The main peak was indeed devoid of disciples. Compared to the bustling Pure Yang Peak, the only activity here came from the spirit deer galloping around, tigers in cultivation, and various exotic beasts moving around the mountain forest. As a gentle breeze swept by, even the mind gained some tranquility. In the bamboo forest, there was only a person with a table, a chair, and a chessboard. Besides them, one could only see a sturdy dual-horned ox grazing in the woods. An old man dressed in a green robe with white hair and speckles was sitting on the stone chair. Stroking his long white beard, engrossed in his game of chess, his gaze was kind and reminded one of a scholar in green robes. It was as if the old man in his youth had also been an incomparable scholar. Upon seeing this scene, Han Yi felt quite puzzled. He didn't understand why Elder Zhang seemed young, yet one's intuition perceived him as very old. "Sit." A single word came out of Elder Zhang's mouth. In the bamboo forest, the lush bamboo grew and automatically shaped into a wicker chair for Han Yi to sit on. Such a technique is rife within the sect, but Han Yi wasn't surprised by it. Instead, he looked at Elder Zhang earnestly and asked, "Elder, you wanted to see me?" Jiang Te placed a piece on the chessboard, finally raised his eyes and looked at Han Yi. He smiled and replied, "Correct. Did you encounter any danger on your way that delayed you?" "I did. The demon Zhao was actually backed by the remnants of the demonic cult, battling with the demon resulting in quite a bit of time." At these words, Elder Zhang didn't seem surprised. Unmoved, He made a teapot appear in the void, pouring a pot of steaming spiritual tea. Brought it in front of Han Yi, and continued to ask, "What else?" Also, Han Yi took the cup of tea, hesitated for a moment, then suddenly remembered that Elder Zhang already knew about his demon chart. Therefore, there was nothing to hide and replied, reporting to Elder Zhang, "I entered the heavenly demon nether dragon scroll and obtained the inheritance inside, all the while encountering multiple powerful individuals who wanted to kill me." Zhang Taixu nodded, seemingly expecting this answer. It's normal, both the Immortal Gate and demonic sect want to obtain that item. Even though you're the current owner of the demon chart, what you got is just a small part of it. The inheritance is not the real purpose of the demon chart. Han Yi was stunned for a moment after hearing this statement. Does it mean that the 24 heavenly demon imagination maps are not everything the demon chart has to offer? You will know the purpose of the demon chart sooner or later, but today what I want to discuss with you is not the demon chart itself. Then what is it? Han Yi asked puzzly. Do you remember the people who chased you? I do. Do you know who they are? I don't. With a flicker in his gaze, Elder Zhang stated, they are the leaders from various great sects across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. They all came for you and are now at the entrance of our mountain. Han Yi was a little taken aback upon hearing this. He honestly didn't expect that those guys would be able to pursue him here. Elder Zhang chuckled, you don't need to panic, our sect leader will handle it. However, one can only resist once, they won't be able to resist forever. The Dragon Sparrow sect has now aroused the attention of the Immortal Gate, and you are in possession of the demon chart. Do you understand what this implies? It implies that I must step forward and confront the Immortal Gate. Feigning innocence, Han Yi asked in a testing manner. You, in your current state, are not yet capable. You do not hold that qualification. Zhang Taixu shook his head, negating the statement. What it means is that you have to resolve this catastrophe destined in your life on your own. Elder Zhang gave a slight smile, his gaze profound. Of course, the sect will certainly help you. You don't need to worry about it, because by helping you, we are indeed helping the Dragon Sparrow sect rise. Even though the Dragon Sparrow sect is considered a top blessed land, there is a long way to go before it can be listed among the Immortal Gate. By that time, I hope you won't disappoint the expectation of our sect. Having a sip of the spiritual tea, Han Yi finally comprehended. The trouble he incited because of the demon chart needs to be resolved by himself. The elder was making a deal with him. He saw his potential and was hoping that he wouldn't forget the blessings the sect had provided to him once he overcomes this problem. Wasn't that his intention? The welfare of the sect was better than expected. Could it be that his previous position as the top outer sect disciple and Elder Zhang's various arrangements were also for this matter? No, that's not right. Back then, he hadn't obtained the demon chart yet.